The 7 deadly sins, they're not just biblical warnings, they're the vices that corrupt those in power. And in Canada, no one embodies these sins more completely than Justin Trudeau's Liberal government. Their scandals, their arrogance, their relentless hunger for more of your money. It's a sickening display of how power can twist and deform those who wield it. This isn't partisan bickering. This is about exposing the rot at the heart of our nation's leadership. And it's time we faced the ugly truth. We don't hold the Liberals accountable. The very idea of Canada as a fair and just nation may be beyond saving. Let's dive into the scandals that each of these sins represent and have rotted Liberal Party. Pride. Let's begin with the sin of pride. Pride is more than just an inflated ego. It's believing you're above the rules, above accountability, above basic decency. And no recent event showcases this arrogance better than the sickening reverence shown to Jaroslav Hunka, a veteran of the Nazi Party. This wasn't a mistake. Hunka was openly acknowledged as a member of the Nazi Party, a unit implicated in brutal war crimes during World War II. Yet he receives a standing ovation from our parliament, from Trudeau himself. What kind of twisted pride makes a nation honor a man who fought for a genocidal regime? This isn't about ancient history. It's with the Liberal government's pride blinding them to the fundamental values of the Canadian we're supposed to be. We understand this is most likely an accident. If this action was an accident, how come there wasn't an extreme apology from this? But no, there's too much pride to apologize. And because of that, a nation that was built on the sacrifices of those who fought against tyranny now applauds its collaborators. But the Liberals' arrogance doesn't just insult our history, it also drains your wallet. Greed. While average Canadians grapple with the soaring cost of living, the Liberal elite bask in extravagance. Case in point, the Queen's funeral. A somber occasion to honor a beloved monarch became an opportunity for the Trudeau government to splurge on a hotel stay fit for royalty. Over $400,000 of your tax dollars were spent on hotel rooms. Rumor has it a nearly €5,000 per night suite was booked, allegedly for Trudeau himself. Think about that for a moment. Thousands of dollars a night when many Canadians struggle to afford their rent. This isn't an exception. It's a pattern of entitlement, a belief that they deserve luxury while the people they're meant to serve make sacrifices. This is greed, plain and simple. And speaking of taking what's not theirs, the Liberals seem to think power itself is their birthright. Lust. Lust, in the political sense, is an insatiable craving for power, placing personal ambition ahead of the nation's needs. And no better example exists than Trudeau's reckless snap election call in 2021. A global pandemic was raging. Canadians were worried about their health, their jobs, their families. And what does Trudeau do? Forces an unnecessary election in a cynical bid to grab a majority government he didn't earn. He gambled with our stability during a crisis, all to satisfy his lust for absolute control. This wasn't about serving Canadians, it was about serving himself. But while Trudeau lusts after power, others in his circles seem consumed by a different kind of vice: envy. Have you ever noticed how the Liberals can't stop talking about the Conservatives? It's not just criticism, it's a fixation. Every policy decision, every budget item, always measured against what came before. Classic envy, folks. They despise the idea that someone else might have gotten it right, so they dismantle it on principle, even if it means replacing it with something worse. And don't even get me started on the Forced Relatability Act. One minute it's staged grocery store visits. The next it's budgeting tips like this.
I personally, as a mother and wife, look carefully at my credit card bill. And last Sunday I said to the kids, you're older now, you don't want to watch Disney anymore. Let's cut that Disney Plus subscription.
It's all about masking the deep-seated envy of their predecessor's success. But get this, the envy is just a facade. There's something far more sinister brewing beneath the surface. Gluttony. Gluttony is an unquenchable hunger, a relentless desire for more, no matter the cost. The perfect embodiment of this is the Liberal government's insatiable appetite for tax revenue, demonstrated nowhere more clearly than with their carbon tax. Sold as a way to fight climate change, the carbon tax is little more than a cash grab disguised as environmentalism. It punishes everyday Canadians trying to heat their homes and drive to work. And the worst part, it keeps increasing with no end in sight. This isn't about saving the planet. This is about the Liberals gorging themselves on your hard-earned money. Their gluttony knows no bounds. And when their policies fail, when the consequences hit Canadians hard, the Liberals don't display remorse, but rather a shocking level of wrath. Imagine the leader of your country admitting he doesn't think about monetary policy. That's not just a slip-up, that's outright arrogance, and it's a pattern with the Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. His government is steeped in the deadly sin of wrath, the unchecked ego that leads to disastrous decisions and downright disrespectful behavior. Let's dissect those cringeworthy sound bites, starting with that monetary policy gem. This isn't obscure stuff. It affects your mortgage, the cost of living, things that severely impact Canadians, and this guy doesn't think about it. Remember this infamous line?
Commitment needs to be a commitment to grow the economy, and the budget will balance itself.
Economic experts were aghast. Regular folks feeling the squeeze, we were furious. That's the arrogance of thinking the rules don't apply, that expertise is unnecessary, that he can just wing it and everything will be fine. Worse, there's that dismissive attitude towards anyone questioning his agenda. If you don't 100% agree with the Liberal government, then you are labeled as an extremist and an outcast. It deepens divides, and it's arrogance preventing real solutions for everyday Canadians. A true leader should not divide people, it should bring them together. But Trudeau's arrogance runs deeper than just sound bites. It's woven into policies and scandals, demonstrating a whole new level of wrath. But is it only wrath? Is the budget intentionally unbalanced? Maybe, but there's a degree of sloth there. Have you ever felt like the Canadian government is a runaway train, careering towards a financial cliff with no brakes in sight? Well, picture this. They promised balanced budgets, a brighter economic future. Yet every year, our national debt balloons like an overinflated beach ball. They've become so numb to the numbers, so indifferent to the consequences, that billions are now just a rounding error. It's enough to make any hardworking Canadian's blood boil. You go to work every day, busting your tail, while they treat our tax dollars like monopoly money. Fancy pet projects, bloated bureaucracies. It's like they're intentionally trying to bankrupt our future. You know what the worst part is? They don't even seem to care. It's the very definition of sloth, a lazy, complacent disregard for responsibility. And do you know what happens when nothing changes? This financial quicksand will only swallow us deeper. But here's the thing, we can't afford to just sit back and watch it happen. Out of all the scandals the Liberal government has faced, which do you think is the worst? Make sure to comment it down below. I want to hear from you what you think is the worst of them all. Make sure to subscribe and watch the video on screen right now to see the secret plan Justin Trudeau has that he thinks Canadians don't notice.